I should probably start by talking about what MPP does and who we are. For those of you who don't know, we are the largest marijuana reform organization in the country. We focus solely on changing marijuana laws through medical marijuana initiatives, decriminalization initiatives, and probably most famously, we were responsible for legalizing marijuana for adult use in Colorado. So we've been around since 1995. And like I said, most famously probably for Colorado, but you know, I could give the big backstory because we've accomplished a lot in all these years, but I think in the interest of time, we'll focus on what we've been doing in the last 2 years. So since the spring of 2012, we've decriminalized marijuana possession. You know, I know in Florida we're talking about medical, but another very important aspect that transcends that are the people who are arrested for small possession, you know, just one joint or two, who end up going to jail. And, you know, in some states they lose funding for student loans. You know, predominantly minorities are put in this position. You can lose your children in certain states over a joint, which is amazing. So we focus on that as well. So we've decriminalized marijuana possession in DC, Maryland, Rhode Island, and Vermont. We've also legalized medical marijuana in the states that you see here. I live in New York. MPP is based in DC, but we work in all 50 states. And as far as New York goes, it took us 10 years, and we spent $650,000, I think, to chip away and chip away and chip away. And finally this year we have a medical marijuana law in New York. Which we're proud of, but you know, it's a very restrictive law. So it's something that, you know, I think in Florida you actually have a broader law here. So if this amendment passes, I think it will be a good one, and maybe we'll set the tone for the rest of the country going forward. So this year we've made, when I say substantial progress, we also work at the local level. For example, 2 cities in Maine have legalized, I think it's under an ounce possession is not going to put you in jail anymore, which is also important. And we're in the beginning of legalization initiatives for adult use, just like Colorado and Washington and Alaska and Nevada, because we see those as the next 2 most likely states to turn. So having said all that, you know, ultimately, we believe that the main goal here is for the feds to back off, to let the states decide how their constituents should either have medical marijuana or not. I mean, if a state wants it, that's great. You know, I think it's up to the people to decide. We already know that marijuana is medicine, and there are people suffering who cannot access it, and it's deeply unfair. So I can't stress enough how important this Florida vote is, not just for you, but for the rest of the country. So again, I think I sort of just went over this, but the reason this federal bill is so important is not just because of, you know, the decrim, medical, all of that, but the people who are already doing business in this space, you know, they can't, the banks, like the major banks in this country, won't do business with them. You know, that's a huge problem. They can't declare taxes just like every other business in the country. That's also a huge problem. So they're working on, you know, cash only. You know, think about the security risks to that. You know, it's absurd. And then, you know, the last point here, the moving marijuana across international boundaries. I mean, you know, we share a continent with Canada and Mexico. They also have a deep interest in our country, you know, changing this ridiculous prohibition. I mean, it's time for it to end. I know everyone in this room probably thinks that, but we're very passionate and intend to make it happen. And this is how we need to make it happen. I mean, this, you know, again, MPP has been doing this since 1995. The strategy has always been a majority of medical marijuana states first, because we know marijuana has medicinal value, and it's an easy case to make. Well, somewhat easy. So in order to get to the ultimate goal of removing federal prohibition, Florida must win. Like, you have to do whatever you can to encourage your family, your friends, your neighbors to vote to pass this law, because if Florida passes, and then West Virginia, which, you know, we're working in West Virginia to make that happen, and then we decriminalize possession in these other 5 states, And then we legalize in 14 more states. I told you there are 2 we're focused on right now, which is Nevada and Alaska. And I'll get to the other ones. We continue to build support in Congress. As I said, MPP is based in DC. We are on Capitol Hill every single day. We have a softball team that called the One Hitters that plays the White House team. We're there building these relationships. This is very important. I mean, this is all very grassroots, and I think it's kind of inspiring, actually, that this beautiful plant can actually bring people together in this way. And then what MPP does really well is to generate positive media coverage. And we do that relatively inexpensively. I mean, this bus ad in Portland, Maine, we spent $1,000 on, and it generated press all across the country. The billboards near the Super Bowl, I live in Manhattan, I think we spent $10,000 on 5 billboards strategically placed so that people would see them as they're going into the Super Bowl. And that was a story that ran for weeks. I mean, it's incredible. I don't know, increased the validity of the legalization effort too. I mean, people just see it, and it's become less of a joke and more of a, okay, when are we doing this? When is this happening? Another couple examples. The NASCAR, that got tons of coverage too, and I think it was $5,000. Really not that much money. And just to clarify this, we define, people ask all the time, what's the difference between decrim, medical, what are you really doing here? Well, legalization we define as people 21 and older possessing up to 1 ounce of marijuana in the home. I just said that 2 cities, this is also historic, in the Northeast, just made that a reality. And currently, I think it's only California, Alaska, and I'm forgetting the other, California, oh, and Colorado, of course, where that is the case. In Washington. This grow your own provision, that's different in every state, but this is the ideal for what we see as the future. And public opinion polling shows that we can actually pass these 7 legalization initiatives, again, starting with Alaska and Nevada. And we really need to raise money for these because they're right on the edge. The public polling is around 51, 53%, which is a danger zone for us. So, if you have any intention of donating money to MPP, now is the time. We really need help with that because we can't lose, just like you can't lose here in Florida, because it would just set us back, take more time, take more money. Okay, and this is just, again, gives you an idea of where we are right now and what we intend to do. And I actually have copies of this in the back, so you can, take it with you just to see where we are. This I cannot stress enough. I hear all the time, oh, it's inevitable. Oh, yeah, okay, marijuana will be legal. It's not inevitable. We've been doing this since 1995. There were people before us, individuals, and other groups. We're not the only drug reform group working on marijuana legalization. Or legislation, I should say. We need to keep working, and it costs money to do this. So it's very important that you support not just MPP, but the other drug reform organizations. I will say, however, since I work for MPP, and I know this for a fact, the reason we have such great support is that we're really smart about how we spend money. We don't waste money. I get asked all the time, too, why aren't you a presence in Florida? We thought, in the interest of saving money for our donors and in the interest of, sort of an easier and a sort of gentler, maybe, campaign, we were going to wait for Florida till 2016 because that's, it's common sense. More people come out to vote. But since you have some very generous donors here who decided to take it over and really fund the effort, we're happy. So we're supporting through our members. But not really spending a lot of money here. However, we are willing to sort of to run ads, to do more work. If we can raise, I think we need to raise about $50,000 more by the end of this month. Yeah, actually, here, there's a lot of words here, but I'll break it down for you. We're geniuses, I should say. It's not just me. There are a lot of people that work for MPP that can turn small money into big money. So if you see, the last point I think is the most relevant. If we, and not just here in this room, I'm actually here for donor meetings all week. If we can raise that money, we will, I guarantee you, increase media coverage and push this forward even faster. So thank you for being here, for being encouraged to support the effort, and good luck with Amendment 4. 2? Oh God, I'm so sorry. Where am I?